What's up, everybody? It is Matt Modi with OddsJam, and for this video, I'm going to give you a betting guide on specifically how to bet the NBA playoffs. It's a little bit different than betting the NBA regular season for a couple reasons which I will detail. But before I get started, just to highlight a couple things. Basketball, as you can see, is my most profitable sport by a wide margin. I'm up almost 6K total just from this basketball season alone, making up over 60% of my total profit, which just dipped below 10K. I would say majority of these basketball bets are player props, maybe like 75%. Couple game props and spreads and all that good stuff in there as well, team totals, but it's majority player props. But for this video, it's just going to be talking about betting on the NBA playoffs as a whole. So including futures, series predictions, stuff like that. So for starters, the positive EV page should still be the first place you go. We have a bunch of different videos about how to navigate and how to look at the positive EV page. So I'll just give a couple highlighters, a couple pointers, highlights here. First of all, the way the positive EV page works is OddsJam calculates what they deem to be the perfect line for a market. So in this case, I have player props filtered out. So it's just spreads, totals, any type of game prop. And they provide discrepancies in which you're getting better odds, more favorable odds on a sports book. So for this top one, the play is in the Raptors versus Sixers game. So the event is going to tell you the game. The market is going to tell you what you're betting. So spread, team total, point spread, anything like that. Bets is going to tell you what the actual bet itself is, and then books is going to tell you which book to bet it on. And this OddsJam column here gives you the OddsJam perfect line. So for this first one, again, it's in the Raptors versus Sixers. Looks like it's a play on the under total points. And the OddsJam perfect line prices that at minus 129, and I got it at BetMGM at minus 115. As you can see, the check mark here means I already bet it. And the thing to highlight is this percent just means the greater the difference between the OddsJam perfect line and the line you're getting it at on a sports book, the higher this number is going to be. That's the positive expected value percent. The first thing you should look at when you're deciding whether to place a positive expected value bet is the market width. And the way you calculate that is just by looking at both sides of the OddsJam perfect line. So in this case, since it's a plus and a minus, you just subtract the two numbers. So 129 minus 115, that equals 14. So this market width would have 14 cents. For this one, since they're two minuses, 13 and 3, you add those together, this one would be 16 cents, 13 plus 3. And for a game prop, which I have up here, anything below 25 cents is a play, and anything below 15 cents, we consider that load city, and I would recommend sometimes betting double or triple what the calculator tells you to bet. And this calculator is just the Kelly criterion method. So basically, it's a formula that takes into account your bankroll, takes into account the odds you're betting it at, and takes into account the win percentage. And this is just based on the OddsJam perfect line, this win percentage, and it spits out an actual number what you should bet on that play. So I follow this pretty religiously, but if I find a really tight market, like this one's 14 cents, that's a really tight market. We consider that load city. I actually doubled my wager on this, and I bet, and you always round up or down, and so I bet 60 on this one because it's a load city bet. So that's how you look at the OddsJam positive EV page. One thing I like to do is sometimes I'll click more into an event just to see exactly how positive, how valuable this bet is. So for this Raptors one, the reason why I really like it, so as you can see, this is just the market for the Sixers versus Raptors for every sports book that's legal for me. So I'm in Virginia. This is every sports book that's legal in Virginia. Just one thing I do want to highlight here is if there are any sports books that are in your state that you're not signed up with, check out the link in the description, and you'll see a bunch of different sports books and links in the sign-up bonus. So sign up using those links, and you could take advantage of those sign-up bonuses. And you can use OddsJam to turn those free bets into cash, or if you have site credit, turn that into cash as well. But for this market, what I like to do is, like I said, click in to the market so I can look at where every book is pricing it. And you can really see pricing discrepancies here. So Anything that is going to be highlighted here with the rectangle just means that that's what the main line is. As you can see on the screen here, it says main line. So it looks like this is priced at about 219, 220, 220 and a half, depending on what sports book you look at. And I got this all the way down at under 221. So most books have it the highest at 220. We got it at 221. So this just shows you how you can use the OddsJam odds page to identify positive expected value bets. But the thing to note here, specifically for the playoffs and specifically even more so in game sevens, the totals tend to trend more towards the under. So that doesn't mean you can just bet every single under and profit, but it does mean that when you are looking to handicap your own spreads and totals and identify profitable plays, understand that unders are much more likely to hit, specifically in the playoffs. Again, that doesn't mean every game is going to go under, just a higher percent. And there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, and the most important, the teams just try harder. Some regular season games, you can see teams just don't try on defense. In the playoffs, teams try. Teams try very hard. So you're never going to get nearly as many easy baskets as you do in the regular season. And teams generally play at a slower pace in the playoffs as well. Instead of the run and gun style, teams will instead slow down the pace, run offensive sets, and that just lowers the possessions, which lowers the total. So when you're looking at betting on NBA games, look at what the total is, look at what these two teams averaged in the regular season, and this isn't a perfect science, but you can generally subtract a couple points depending on the opponent and stuff. So as far as betting on the playoffs, it's really important to understand that scoring is generally down across the board in the playoffs, and especially in Game 7. Game 7s especially, you can almost bet every under and profit. And that's just, again, the same logic as teams play harder on defense, but also teams are generally just a little more have butterflies. Eventually, as the game goes on, those tend to fade, but teams generally start cold in game sevens because, again, they just have butterflies in their stomach. They're just tight. They're ready for the game to start, and they just don't quite have their jump shot under them yet. They haven't quite just adapted to the game scenario. So first half unders, first quarter unders in game sevens, as well as just full games, can be really profitable, can be really valuable. So just a couple notes there regarding specifically totals in the playoffs. So the next thing we're going to look at are player props. And again, the first thing you want to do when looking to bet an NBA player prop is to go to the OddsJam Positive EV page and look at the market width. For game props, we have the limit at 25. For player props, we upped that a little bit to 40 cents. So the logic for that is just because player props have a little bit of a wider variance. So in order to actually get some plays in, you have to update that. Market width to 40 cents. And as you can see, so based on what we looked at before, the screen in which we had player props removed, there's 4, 5, maybe 6 plays. Now adding in player props, as you can see, there are dozens and dozens of plays here. So obviously it wouldn't be optimal to bet every single one of these. Instead, you need to find a way to narrow it down. So the first way to narrow it down is just to look at the market width, right? So anything above 40 cents, I'm not even going to look at. The next way to narrow it down is if you find a play that is within market width, like let's look at this Scotty Barnes under 0.53's bet. 35 cents in market width, it's a play there. The next thing you want to do is, and I do this for every player prop that I bet, is you click into the play, again, to look at the markets, and you want to find out if other sportsbooks are pricing it the same, roughly the same as the OddsJam perfect line, or roughly the same as the sportsbook it has you betted on, because the logic there being, if you are betting it on, if you're comparing it to what the OddsJam perfect line has, and every book has it the same, but one book has it different, that's a true pricing discrepancy, and that's a true positive EV bet. But there are scenarios, and this is an example of one, in which maybe the OddsJam perfect line is just mispricing it in this specific case. So the reason why I know this is because OddsJam perfect line prices it at plus 101. Every other book, the closest they have it is plus 115. So pretty big difference there. Whereas DraftKings, the sports book that has the most favorable odds for us, has it at plus 130. But every other book has it closer to that than plus 101. 2 at minus or plus 125, 1 at plus 122, and then plus 115 kind of in the middle. So this, to me, doesn't feel like a true positive expected value bet. So I wouldn't recommend anybody placing this bet. One bet that I did like was the Giannis. This is a rebound play for Giannis. So the OddsJam Perfect line prices it at minus 133. The best odds are FanDuel at minus 105, but majority of books have it. Some books, not majority, have it closer to minus 133. PointsBet has it at minus 125, and BetMGM has it all the way at minus 140. So it does look like getting this at minus 105 is a true difference and a true outlier based on how low it is, which is why I like this bet specifically and not the other one. One thing, an important thing to keep in mind when you are looking at player props for the playoffs specifically, is understand that the starters and the important players play heavier minutes than in the regular season. So in the regular season, you'll see players like Giannis average 35, maybe 36. Sometimes he'll play up to 40 minutes per game, but he certainly won't average that, and he certainly won't do that on a consistent basis. In the playoffs, on the other hand, you're playing your stars sometimes the entire game. So if we look at, this is just the East semifinal matchup between the Bucks and the Nets. Kevin Durant averaged 42 minutes a game. Kyrie Irving only averaged 35, but he got hurt on game 3, if you remember. So that's not a true number for him. Same thing with James Harden. He also got hurt in this series. But if you look at the Bucks side, Giannis is over 40. Chris Middleton is at 42. Drew Holiday is at 39. So when you're looking to bet player props, just understand that if you're betting on someone like Bobby Portis, a player that doesn't play as much, he might have lower numbers, but he's also going to have lower opportunity to hit his props. So generally, when I'm recommending betting player props, I would recommend betting on the players that you know are going to play heavy minutes. So obviously the pricing is going to be baked into that. So not every single Giannis player prop is going to be profitable. So you still need to make sure that it's positive expected value. But I'll tend to err on the side of players that I know are playing heavy minutes, because that's why you know they're going to be in the game. And a player like Giannis or Chris Middleton is going to have much more plays run for them in just the regular flow of the offense than a Pat Connaughton or a Bobby Portis. They're just going to have more attempts to do stuff. So that's why generally in the playoffs, just stick with the studs. That's an easy betting strategy, specifically for player props in the playoffs. A couple important things to do, and I mentioned this in my guide to player props, is you can look at fantasy projections and see where these daily fantasy sites are pricing totals. Like for this Giannis one, you can just Google Giannis Antetokounmpo projections, and you'll see are places projecting him to have over 12.5 rebounds. If so, then this is a really valuable bet. If not, then maybe you sit it out. Another thing you can do is just look at where he's trending both on the season and recently. So you could just Google Giannis stats, and we see looks like he's averaging about just 11.5 per game, so under this number. And recently, he's also trending below this number. He had 2 games in a row against the Nets and the Sixers where he went above. Same thing with the Bulls. But recently, he's been trending below this. So maybe, if you're not comfortable betting against recent trends, that's an option. I liked it because the 2 important games, Sixers and Nets, he both went over. So imagine in a game against the Celtics, it's going to be the same. And the same logic applies for a playoff game. He's going to take it much more serious. He's going to put much more of an effort to get these rebounds than he would in a regular season game. So just a couple ways, more tools in your tool belt to betting player props, because there's so many. The optimal thing to do would be to find the most valuable, and this is a way you can do that. So OddsJam Positive EV page, number 1. Compare to other sports books, see if it's a true outlier, a true discrepancy or not. Then just understand that stars play heavier minutes in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. So if you're betting on a lesser player, that one's a little more risky. And then projections are important to look at, as well as trends. And that's general player prop advice specifically for the playoffs. The next strategy I want to talk about is specifically in betting on series. A team if they're down 0-1 or even if they're down 0-2. There are plenty of examples every single playoff year of a team coming back from down 0-1 or 0-2. We haven't had 0-3 yet. Maybe we will. We've had a couple 1-3s. But just remember the Bucks playoff run last year. The Bucks historically start slow in playoff series. Game 1 against the Heat last year went into overtime. After that, 3 straight blowouts. The next 2 series, they lost Game 1 against the Nets. They lost Game 2, and they came back and won. Granted, some injuries helped them out there, but still. Against the Hawks, they went down 0-1. And everybody remembers the finals against the Suns, down 0-2. Then they won 4 straight. There are teams like that every year. The Clippers are another example. Last year, went down 0-2 in their first 2 rounds of the series. First round to the Mavs, second round to the Jazz, came back and won. The Raptors, the year they won the title, they lost their first playoff game of that series, of that whole finals run. They lost their first playoff game to the Magic as the 2 seed. Won 4 straight. There are plenty of examples every year of teams going down 0-1 or 0-2 and winning the series. So this year, let's say the Suns get the Clippers in round 1. They lose game 1. Everyone's going to say, well, the Clippers got Paul George back. The Clippers are a great team. People are going to want to bet the Clippers. Depending on what the odds, the Suns might be a favorable draw or favorable bet. Same thing, let's say, the Nuggets get the 7 seed and they win game 1 against the Grizzlies. Grizzlies still probably win that series. I think they could be some value. There could be some value there if they go down 0-1. And stuff like this, again, it happens every year. So don't be scared to take advantage of a team that is down early in a series and see if you can get favorable odds. And that's pretty much all I got for you. So a couple things to note specifically for the playoffs. Just understand that games are a little bit lower scoring. So when you're betting totals, look out for that, especially game 7s. I almost blindly bet game 7 unders just because I know that scoring is going to be hard to come by. And if you're betting player props, just understand that the stars, the studs, play heavier minutes than they do in the regular season. So granted, scoring is down, so maybe it evens out, but just understand that when you're looking at the positive EV page and you're looking to back as a player, just understand what their role is on the team, if they're going to have plays come to them or not, and how many minutes they're going to play, because that's obviously going to be incredibly important when it comes to pricing their player props. And then when it comes to series, betting on futures, don't be scared to back a team if they're down 0-1 or 0-2 early. Obviously, it depends how the matches go, but if you have a feeling that they could come back and win, like I did with the Bucks, they seem to figure some stuff out in Game 2 against the Suns. I was confident in the Bucks moving forward. That's a way you can take advantage and get some favorable odds. Other than that, the positive EV page is always going to be your best friend. So just make sure you're looking at the market width. Make sure you're looking into the market itself to see if you're finding a discrepancy or if maybe the OddsJam perfect line is wrong. And other than that, make sure you're signed up for every sports book. Make sure you're constantly line shopping. Make sure you're using OddsJam to convert those free bets into cash or just guaranteed money using the arbitrage page. And that is all I got for you. So let me know what you thought of the playoff betting analysis. You can hit me up at my Twitter handle below. You can also comment on the video, provide your feedback that way. Would also appreciate a like on the video, and if you could subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. But for this, that is all I got for you. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.